Welcome to Date Yourself, the podcast. I'm your host, Amber, and no matter if you're married or single, I think the world would be a better place if we all dated ourselves. During this podcast, we discuss being unapologetically yourself, ditching the bullshit, and tuning into more peace by making joy a choice. Through listening to this podcast, you might create a lifelong glow-up, just saying. It's time you start appreciating yourself more and date yourself. Hi lovelies, so before we begin this week's episode, I wanted to quickly tell you a little bit about Alignment Academy. Alignment Academy is my membership where I share monthly workshops and also much more like meditations and EFT practices where you can change your mindset. This month is all about self-worth, accepting yourself. And so we do a really cool workshop where we shift the limiting beliefs around speaking up for yourself and really feeling good about yourself. If you want more help with that, if you just need a little pick-me-up and want to dive deeper into why you may not feel that good about yourself or why some situations really trigger you and make you want to hide or talk down on yourself, this month's workshop and other practices might be really beneficial for you. There is also a library of other workshops from previous months. And like I said, like meditations, EFT practices, pick a card videos, a weekly energy check-in where we check into your energy of the week ahead. So if that sounds interesting, check the show notes. I will put a link there to Alignment Academy. You're more than welcome to join. We would love to have you. Thank you so much for listening, and let's go to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Date Yourself podcast. Last week, I went on a trip to Denmark and Sweden, and it was so amazing, and I've had so many insights and lessons learned during that trip that I wanted to just kind of share my experience with you. Most of all, I've been able to release this feeling of having kind of this wall up, or you could say like your heart closed. These are vague concepts, but I think you can remember a time where you could not really see the magic of life anymore. Everything just became kind of the same or just difficult and hard, and seeing the magic was hard, having hope was hard. And that was me just a few weeks ago, and I kind of noticed this within me. And so when I got the invite from one of my friends, I hosted a women's circle with her before. We kind of had this really random, spontaneous contact where we just exchanged phone numbers and just wanted to plan something together because I just thought that she was awesome and she was, I don't know, we just clicked immediately. So that was really funny. And so I said yes to hosting a women's circle together. That was magical, wonderful. And now she is hosting ceremonies in Sweden. So she immigrated with her whole family from the Netherlands to Sweden, the south of Sweden. And she's been there for half a year. They have gone there in July. And so she invited me to come stay at her little cabin in the woods. And also, in the beginning of this year, I had this great idea to go on a solo travel trip to Copenhagen in Denmark. I've been there before with my family and I just fell in love with the city so much. It's just so cute with all those colored houses and just really has a special vibe. I tend to say like it kind of has the same energy as Amsterdam, and I love Amsterdam. So Copenhagen, I always wanted to come back to it. And so she invited me and she said, so like it's better to fly to Copenhagen and then take a train to where I live than to like go to one of the other big cities in Sweden itself. And so that was kind of a manifestation in itself, and having to be able to stay where she lives to really get to experience the Swedish life. And man, did I experience this Swedish life. It was so cool to be at home where she is. I got to really experience like living in the woods in a small community and just immerse yourself with nature around you. And it was just everything that I could have hoped for and more. And so I'm really glad that I went. And today in this podcast, I want to share with you how to keep that heart open, how to keep seeing the magic and have hope, and Also have faith in that what you really want is coming towards you, not to give up hope or to stay like in this stuck kind of feeling. Also, if you're going through changes, this is also the episode for you, because I also recognized some things in my life that need to change. I kind of had this rude awakening of things that I need to let go of and pick up and change into. And navigating that can be kind of a shock to the system as well, right? That seeing the truth and not being able to run from it anymore, right? And so that's what you get when you put a girl on her own in the woods in a cabin. And also with people who are so loving and caring, and kind of nurture you back to be yourself again. That's kind of my experience. So I will link Marloes, her Instagram, in the show captions, because she will be giving more and more ceremonies. We might also be hosting a retreat together. Those plans are still in the works, but yeah. So I talked on Instagram about that feeling that you get when you come back from vacation and how it kind of hits you and you're like brought back to how things were before you left, but also you feel different because you have been on this trip. So maybe you recognize that within yourself. And I asked for tips, and one of my friends said, look at the pictures that you took to really like bring you back to that moment. I think that is such a simple but really effective tip, because for me personally, I feel like all these memories that we collect and all these places that we see and people that we meet are kind of this anchor point where we can look back on. And everything that we experience gives us a lesson, right? It's like this period of our life that has a theme. And so this trip for me also had a theme. And so looking back on it, I can kind of tap into how I felt then and what that theme and that lesson was for me. And so if you have been experienced kind of being in a rut or like winter depression or whatever you might be going through, or a big change, it is helpful to remember how you felt in those moments that you have really a good connection or memory with, because that is also real. It kind of brings you back to hope, to what else is possible, because you've been there before, so you can go there again, even if things are not feeling that way right now. And for example, I didn't know that I could be going on this trip a few weeks before. I was really sad that like I had a plan, I had a trip planned, but that fell through, and so I was like, oh God, what now? And so I had no idea that this would come on my path, right? That I could stay with her family and be in a cabin in the woods and whatever. It kind of just fell into place. And so if things are not hopeful right now, I know that that's a really sad place to be in. It's really easy to just say like things are going to be okay, but things are going to be okay. And you might not feel that right now. And so I want to give you some useful tips that you can use to kind of open your heart again, because I feel like if you have been through some stuff that maybe have closed your heart or kind of made you come back to this survival state where you just had to grind, had to like really work really hard, or just tune out all the noises around you and just focus on yourself, or maybe you had to deal with difficult people that made it really hard to focus on you, or you had to take care of a lot of other people, so you could not really hear your own voice, right? That kind of puts us in this corner, and that kind of makes us want to hide or protect ourselves or fight. The first step, if you want to come out of this and open your heart again, is to recognize where you're at in that process. And so maybe you are feeling really safe with the people around you now, and you can really connect and reach out and have this beautiful contact and really be inspired and create and have a flow of abundance and do what you love. That is the state that we all want to be in, right? I do think that that is the state where your heart is open. And so if you want to come out of maybe survival or having put this wall up, here are some tips that you can use to be in that different energy. Now, the first tip that I have for you is decide who you want to open your heart for. Because the reason that you have closed your heart is because you might have been disappointed before, or there has happened something that made you want to close your heart, right? So the first step to feel safe to even open your heart is to make sure that you can protect yourself, to make sure that you will be okay if you do so. That is why I could not really get into that feeling before I went on a trip, and that happened during that trip because I was with people who really saw me, who were so compassionate, so loving, and I had the chance to reconnect with myself because I was a week on my own with them as well, but mostly on my own in nature. So maybe it's time to also go on a trip, but you can also do this through meditation. I will be doing and guiding a little meditation at the end of this episode. So if you need a little help and you want to meditate with me, be sure to listen to the end because that can be really helpful and loving to give to yourself. And so for me, it was time to decide where my boundaries were. And this happens again and again. I constantly experience stuff where I'm like, oh, why did I get into this situation? Or why do I feel a little bit weird about this? Or does this still fit me, right? And also in communication styles, like, have I been able to really stand up for myself, or did I kind of ignore some feelings? This is really interesting to pay attention to if you want to keep your heart open, because you need to make sure that it feels safe for you to keep doing that and to share your truth and really connect with someone. So if someone is blocking that positive flow of energy of receiving and giving, and they are taking in a way that doesn't resonate with you, or are in a different mindset that kind of blocks that positive, loving flow, maybe consider doing something about it. This can be a friend, this can be a coworker, this can be a family member, doesn't really matter. The point is that you are able to protect yourself by maybe walking away, or maybe putting up boundaries, or whatever you need to feel better, to be able to take care of yourself, be able to communicate in a way that keeps you safe and that makes you feel good. I think the first step to keeping your heart open is to protect yourself. And I love that so many people who are on this path of spiritual awakening and working on themselves are about spreading the love, right? To be about love and light. And I've been there before as a healer, as a coach, where you want to help as many people, you want to spread as much positivity as you can. And I'm still like that. I still kind of love to do these random moments of kindness during the day, like talking to strangers or helping someone out or whatever. But I've also come across a lot of people who love to take advantage of that energy, right? And sometimes we forget that those people are out there because we don't think that way, but they see a light and they want a little bit of it. And so protecting yourself is important, and setting boundaries is so important, and able to keep spreading the love, keep spreading the positivity. And that also means that you sometimes run into betrayal or just situations that are not healthy for you, and you might still want to help those people because hurt people, right? And that's also something that we need to learn as healers, as empaths, to make sure that others know that we're not all forgiving. And like, forgiveness is really important and we can forgive everyone, right? But it has to stop at some point. We cannot keep on giving. It's like putting yourself on fire to keep others warm, right? That's not helpful. That's not sustainable. And so if you want to keep your heart open, you need to be able to feel safe to do that. And taking inventory of who you feel safe with and who you have that really beautiful connection with, and who you might just want to avoid or need to have a serious conversation with. I think that is the number one step to be able to keep your heart open. Also because your energy is valuable, sacred, and so you should be selective with who you are going to spend it on, and others should know that they should respect that time and energy as well. So the second tip that I have for you to keep your heart open is to be vulnerable. To open your heart is to be vulnerable. And that is the part that I was struggling with a lot, because I ran into some situations where my trust was kind of broken, and I kind of just stayed within this safe cocoon, maybe. But I don't really like that. And so I recognized that that was keeping me from feeling everything. It's not, you could compare it to numbing out. I'm not sure if I was numbed out, because I tend to really pay attention to feeling my feelings. If you have listened to episode 3, I think, yeah, episode 3 is about how to process your emotions. I'm very much a fan of sitting with it, not running from it. But I also recognized when I was sitting alone in the woods with myself and my feelings and my thoughts, that there were still some things that I had been repressing, and that I needed to acknowledge. And I couldn't really before, I think. And so there is also a time and place for being vulnerable, and there's also a timing in being able to process certain events and emotions. Sometimes you're not ready for it. Sometimes it's not the space and time to do so. But you can also face it head on. For example, I love to do coaching when I feel like there is something that I am not looking at but needs to be faced. And I love doing that because the feeling that you get after is freedom. And that is why I keep showing up to face my demons and face my darker side, because that initially makes it easier to open my heart, makes it easier to really connect, makes it easier to have that hope to see the magic in life. Because if you are just walking around running from your own feelings and and suppressed emotions, you are eventually going to kind of numb out, which means that you're not able to fully enjoy life, because facets of it you're not willing to experience or see or feel. And so that is when we can get stuck. That is where we can lie to ourselves about our life, how we really feel, what we really need, and we might tend to listen more to other people's plans for us, because that's easier. Sometimes it's easier to follow the path that others tend to create for us, because we don't really want to take the time to look at those difficult feelings. Maybe we know subconsciously that there is something that we need to change, that we need to look at, but we're not ready for it yet, or it's too difficult or too painful. And so this creates resistance, and that creates numbing out. And then there is also kind of this wall up, right? And so you might close your heart. So that's why, to be able to keep your heart open, it's important to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable is to be honest with yourself and to be honest with other people about how you truly feel and what you need, at the expense that some people might not get it, or that our needs won't be met, or that we need to make a big change. But that's where the growth happens, right? The growth happens where we have that meaningful and necessary conversation. The growth happens when we're able to really feel the pain and then make a positive change because we're ready, now that we have really felt it and we can let it go. The change happens and the growth happens when we make that change that fits better with how we want to be living our lives in the future. And we know that how we did it before doesn't work anymore. That's when you tend to see new opportunities. If you have that heart-to-heart conversation, you might recognize that you're the same and you understand each other and you have this beautiful moment of connection. Or you realize that that person cannot really see you and you walk away and you stand in your own power and you're grateful that you have figured it out and that you can now choose yourself instead. Or like for me, I know that I need to make some changes, and I've been scared to name that. But I also know, and I also feel optimistic because I know that what I'm going to be doing in the future, although I'm not sure what it's going to look like, that it's going to fit better with my life because I need different things now in this point in time. And so that feels vulnerable. But it also feels really good. I am happy that I've been able to be honest to myself, because now I can see like why some things didn't work out, or I am more clear about where I'm headed and where I want to be going. And I also feel lighter because I have been able to really have beautiful conversations and let go of some heavy emotion that I was kind of not wanting to feel because it was difficult and it was kind of old. It was sometimes we think that we have like healed from something and then it randomly comes up, right? And you like have to process it still. It's like peeling an onion is the example that I use. It has layers, like healing has layers. You still go deeper and deeper and deeper. But it's also beautiful because every time that you go deeper and you realize something, or you're able to let go of something of the past, it's all lessons, right? And so it's about learning even more about yourself, although it's sometimes a pain in the ass. It's not always fun to sit with your feelings, right? I totally get it. But it is necessary if you want to keep your heart open, because otherwise you're just lying to yourself saying that you're okay. Well, actually, maybe you are okay, but you could be better. So the third tip that I have for you is a bit random, but it has really helped me to open my heart. I've now done cacao for 2 times, so cacao ceremonies where you drink cacao, so not chocolate milk, but cacao that is mixed with water. It's very dense. And this is used in ceremonies and also in other cultures to really open your heart. And I can say that it really does something with you. It depends on how much you take. It's not like drugs, but also like you take something to open your heart and to see the world a little bit differently. So I could see why some people would say it's kind of like drugs, but I don't have that association with it. It's also not described as a drug, but yeah, it's just beautiful how it works. And I've been really happy that I have experienced it. To me, it kind of felt like I couldn't really hold up a facade or lie to myself. I was just able to feel really deeply and connect with myself in a different way, where all the ego stuff just fell away and I could just deeply feel and see life as it was. Like all the small stuff didn't really matter anymore, and I could just be and really experience whatever feelings were suppressed. And I have done a ceremony with Marloes where we also did breath work. And breath work is breathing in a pattern that also releases a lot of emotion and maybe old stories that you held on to. So I've kind of been broken open through the cacao and the breath work. So I'm really thankful for Marloes for facilitating that healing ceremony. This is what she does at her home in Sweden. So if that is something that you are excited to try, I will link her Insta down below. But yeah, that has been really, really helpful to just look at my own shit and to drink cacao. It really is something special. And if you're really looking to be able to feel your feelings, if you have difficulty with naming them and really connect with yourself and others, and you feel like your heart might be closed, maybe look into a cacao ceremony. It's pretty low-key, and some people do it with meditation and just drinking the cacao and that's it. Some people do eye gazing, which is pretty intimidating but lovely, where you are in a group with other people, maybe some of which you know, maybe some of which you don't know, and you take the time to stare into each other's eyes for like a minute. And that really breaks down your barriers. I did this with Marloes as well, and I was like, oh God, I was trying to run away from what I was feeling while I was looking at her eyes. And then slowly, like, I could feel myself really be seen by her. And that's a really special experience if you're willing to go for that, because yes, it's pretty intimidating as well. But also really healing. So that's kind of what can happen during a cacao ceremony. Like every cacao ceremony is different. Everybody does it differently. But it has become kind of this trend now where I live, at least in the region of Amsterdam. I live in the Netherlands. So maybe just look into where you can find cacao ceremonies. It's really lovely to really connect with others on such a deep level who are also open to really see you, really accept you for who you are, and just share what's been going on, how you were feeling. It's not this like therapy session. It's more just like connecting and being yourself, which I love. And so I'm really excited to maybe host a retreat with Marloes in Sweden. I definitely will go back. Her family is so lovely. She has two like teenage boys who were so welcoming, and yeah, her husband is amazing as well. And South Sweden is so beautiful. It has been so amazing. You can look at my Insta for some videos and pictures that I took, or look at my travel highlight. I've shared some there, but I'm also making a travel vlog. Maybe it's already out. I will link it in the show notes as well when that is done on YouTube. This is a question that Ramon asked, who is Marloes, my friend's husband, and he was like, so what are you leaving behind? What are you bringing with you? And I was like, yeah, that's a good question. And so I told him, like, I'm leaving behind all the stories, all the small stuff that I was thinking about, overthinking, because I really had this experience of coming back to myself, to the basics, like living in the woods with a lot of silence and just connecting, sharing stories. That was all that I did in that week, but it made just life really simple, and that is what I really needed. And so what I have brought with me is this open heart and having my wall kind of down now. And I'm so thankful for that. So a question that you can ask yourself is, what is that for you? Like, what are you leaving behind this period of your life? And what is it that you have learned? What are you bringing with you? So before we wrap up this episode, I am going to be inserting one of my favorite meditations. It helps you stand your ground. It really helps you accept whatever is present right now, because the more that you resist what is, it just becomes more difficult to deal with it, right? If you accept what is, you can easily navigate it, and you will easily and intuitively feel what is needed, or where something needs to change, or you feel this hope way more if you can just accept and let go. So I'm going to help you do that. So I really hope you enjoy this meditation. Like I said in the beginning, there are many more meditations like this in my membership. So this is kind of a tryout to see if you like my style of meditations, and if you want more, you can check that out. The link is in the show notes. Welcome to the self-love meditation, where we'll be taking the time to really feel our worthiness, our inherent worth, to take up space, to feel whatever it is that we need to feel, to just be, to not judge or challenge anything about us, but to just accept who we are and where we are in this moment. Take the time to get comfortable. And start focusing on how you are sitting here right now. Can you notice how you're feeling, how your body is feeling? Just taking a curious look at where you are at right now. trying to change anything. We're just observing and coming back to the body. And self-love comes from turning your focus inward and allowing yourself to be exactly who you are, with your past, with your present. While going through the motions, navigating it as beautifully as you can. Allowing yourself to learn and be imperfect. To learn lessons and to do better each day. That's enough. We're here to grow, we're here to learn. We don't need to prove ourselves to anyone because everyone is just focusing on themselves anyway. All trying to navigate life in what we think is the best way to do so. And so I want you to set the intention to take the pressure off yourself today. To be perfect. To have it all figured out. What if you just let go of that thought for today? And just lead with softness, with compassion for who we are in the moment, where we're headed, and what we've been through. Not making it wrong or right, just accepting life as it is, accepting who you are as it is, and allowing yourself to feel love for yourself and your journey. So take a deep breath in the place where your heart is. So breathe towards your heart. And just with setting your intention, your breath will be flowing there automatically. So just focus on the heart. And start breathing in and out there for a little bit. And feel how breathing towards your heart kind of washes you clean. By tuning in, you're allowing what is to just be there. You're allowed to feel whatever is coming up right now. You're allowed to say how you feel. You're allowed to say what you think. You're allowed to speak your truth just as anyone else. And to take up space. To do what you love. And keep breathing towards your heart, feeling that space opening a little bit more as you're just allowing. And then imagine that there is a little seed planted in the center of your heart. And that seed begins to sprout. So see how the leaves are starting to unfurl. And in that place of the seed is now a beautiful flower growing. With every breath, you see this flower opening a little bit more, blooming all the way until it's fully bloomed within your own heart. See how beautiful this flower is. And just allow yourself the grace to just be. And say to yourself, I accept myself. And I'm allowed to feel love towards myself. I love myself fully and completely, right where I am in this moment. And again, I love myself fully, who I am in this moment. I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. And set the intention to take this feeling with you throughout the day. To feel the love, the grace for letting yourself just be. Accepting where you are at each moment, knowing that you are doing your best. Knowing that you are safe, that you are loved. You're allowed to speak your truth, you're allowed to take up space, and your feelings are valid. You have a beautiful day. Let's get back to the room where you are right now. Bring your attention back to the body. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And please leave me a comment or a DM telling me the best trip you've ever been on and what you learned. I would love to read it. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day and evening. Thank you so much for listening and speak to you soon. Bye.